The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 182.
Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of successful women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Subscribe to our newsletter by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com.
Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And today I have a phenomenal lady on who's all the way from Singapore. She is the co-founder of Tomboy Tarts, so she's going to elaborate more of what it's about. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Raven Lim. Raven, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to our listeners.
Hi there. Thanks, Sheena, for introducing me and inviting me to your awesome show. So I'm Raven, co-founder of Tomboy Tarts, a classic tomboy website which celebrates the tomboy spirit here in Asia. We are a team of cool, passionate tomboy girls who can tell our lipsticks from our brogues at the drop of a fedora hat. So like my co-founder Persis, we have many years of television production and visual background behind us. And we started this site and community chat podcast exactly 2 years back and have been building an organic following throughout these years. So our community chat podcast, Tomboy T-Rat, yes, it's pronounced as T-Rat, not tirade, but T-Rat, the way we like to say it, featuring both of us, has become Asia's biggest all-female comedy chat podcast. And strangely enough, our tomboy personalities have been the driving force behind the site.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And it's great that, you and your partner is Asia's biggest all-female comedy podcast. It's funny because, I try to check out, if there's a lot Asian women out there who are podcasting, and there's not as many as I thought there would be. So, it's great to see that there's women out there who's going out there and speaking their voice and doing it in a way where they feel authentic. They feel like they don't have to hide their personality. So great stuff. And Raven, what's your cultural background?
I am an ethnic Chinese from Singapore. So I grew in a very typical Asian conservative family. Generally, women are not really encouraged to speak up. I mean, it's better now in Singapore than compared to when I was growing up. But it's really difficult. I mean, in schools, we are kind of conditioned not to question the teachers. We are also conditioned not to question the elders. So, and also there's quite a bit of censorship in Singapore, so you kind of have to be very careful what you say and portray yourself to public. So in a way, we start this podcast so that, we can express ourselves freely.
Awesome. And I know what it's like, right? It's like we've been taught to just please others and never make any noise because we don't want to look crazy or shame their family. And it's like, that really hurts us because then we end up not realizing who our true selves are, and we're always second guessing everything that we do. So, I'm glad you're able to come out of that with the podcast that you have. And, what's your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite self-confidence quote is very simple. It's life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And that is a philosophy I've been trying to live by for the past few years, especially after I start Tomboy Tarts, my first startup.
Awesome. And, people forget that they have to, if they ever want anything in life that's like worth going after, they're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Getting out of that comfort zone. And,
True.
And, we all go through it. I mean, I used to get scared for every single thing because it just felt so uncomfortable. But, when you step on the other side, I mean, it's just like, what was I scared about, right? So,
yeah.
So, I live by this too as much as I can, right? Because, we're all human. Sometimes we still get scared. And so, thanks for sharing this quote. And in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
My definition of self-confidence is to believe in your abilities, qualities, and judgment. Basically, to me, self-confidence is about believing in yourself.
Awesome. Great definition. And I believe that too. I mean, if you can't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you? Like everything has to start from yourself, right? Believing that you can do it. You can go out there and be the change that you want to see in the world. So I love that definition. And Raven, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
Well, to start off, when I was in school, I was an average student. So I'm not really the typical Asian high performer. I'm actually pretty average. And there isn't really any leadership roles for me in that sense. So, and that affected my confidence when I stepped into the working world because I didn't really have a lot of experience in managing people, like working, interacting with people, or seeing through projects from beginning to end. So I think for a longest time, I wasn't even sure what I was like good at because I don't seem to be, like smart enough or competent enough or eloquent enough, charismatic enough. So it was quite a challenge. I mean, for especially in the beginning part of my working life.
And I think that happens to all of us, right? Especially, like you said, being in a conservative, growing up in a conservative Asian family or Asian society. It's like, we're, like you said, we're just told what to do. We just, go to school, get a job, and just never rock the boat. And because of that, it's like we don't go for those things because it's like if you do, you might end up, failing. And people forget that failing is, part of your journey. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? And, we're ingrained that failure is a bad thing since school. It's like you get an F, it's the end of the world. And it's worse when you're Chinese, right? It's like, I remember I had a math test that I brought home to my dad and was like, Dad, I got a 90% on my test. And he's like, why didn't you get a 95?
100% actually.
Yeah. And that's the kind of like stuff we go through, right? It's like, why didn't you get a better grade? Why didn't you do this? And then, we're not happy with the results that we have, right? We don't celebrate all the success. So, and then in turn, we end up not trusting ourselves, not knowing what we're good at because we feel like we're never good enough. So Raven, what was that point in your life when you realized, you are good enough, you're more than enough to just go out there and live the life that you want? What was that aha moment?
So we run a comedy podcast called Tomboy Tirade, which is a part of our Tomboy Tarts brand. And that used to have 2 co-hosts. We are now like a 4 co-host show, but we started Tirade with just 2 co-hosts. So when one of them quit, we couldn't find a new co-host in time. So we are like, okay, what should we do? Being the producer, I felt that at that time I have no choice but to step in because otherwise, we wouldn't have our show. Because our show is based on a conversation, like a chat between 2 people back then. So, and it was like a totally new ball game for me to be in the spotlight. Although I have extensive experience working in television production, I'm actually working more like behind the scenes. I'm always like the producer, the writer, the editor. So I never really like go out and to present myself to the world. And I realized that in order to sound confident on the show, I have to be confident myself. I have to believe in myself. Otherwise, I just not going to be very good at what I'm doing.
Awesome. And, having a podcast can be like really therapeutic. I mean, it really does help you bring out your confidence. Because I remember when I first started, it was scary. I was just like, what if nobody listens to me? Or what if people think I'm nuts? Or, I just, you have all these things running in your head, right? What if you're not good enough? What if? And then sometimes you just got to go out there and take a leap of faith and just, believe, like you said, believe in your abilities and just go. And I'm glad you're able to, step into that spotlight and look where it is now, right? Like you guys are, Asia's biggest all-female comedy podcast, which is great. And, because you're able to step out and be in that spotlight and be able to be on your podcast, what's your life been like now?
Well, it's a huge challenge for me to loosen up and speak my mind. So initially, I was very self-conscious. So I tend to, like you say, overthink it a bit too much. Like, am I not good enough? What if I'm not funny? Because I'm doing a comedy podcast. But what if I'm not funny? What if not witty enough? And then I'm also worried about my accent. I mean, like, I obviously speak with a very obvious Asian accent. And I was wondering, like, could anyone understand me, like, or my accent? So thankfully, it does get better with experience. I think the new self-confidence has helped me with my business, especially as a first-time entrepreneur. I mean, to be able to speak out and promote myself. I mean, before I started Tomboy Tarts, I never thought I would ever, like, set up a website or try to do a business. I never really thought of that. I guess when I was growing up, the priority is to, like, do well in your studies, find a good job, have 2 to 3 kids, and, create a perfect nuclear family, be the high achiever. Yeah. So now it's like totally something very, very new to me.
Awesome. And I'm glad, you're able to go out there and speak your voice and promote yourself because, I remember reading an article how, women find it hard for them to promote themselves because they've been so ingrained that like it's not proper for women out there to market themselves or promote themselves. And it's stupid because who made up that rule, right? And that's just someone else's perception. We can go out there, speak our mind, promote ourselves, be the person we want to be, and the more we can be okay with that and just go out there and do it without caring what other people think, that's when like the magic happens. So I'm glad you're able to step up and be able to promote yourself, be an entrepreneur, and have this cool podcast. Raven, to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in a similar journey to self-confidence. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
I would say just go out there and do it, really. I mean, if you never try, you will never know what you're capable of.
I love it. Just go out there and do it. It's true. I mean, like you said, we all tend to overthink everything, right? Like, what if this doesn't work? What if I screw up? What if, right? But I mean, the more you just take action, it's not as bad as you think, you get better results than you ever thought possible, and it builds that confidence in you, right? Just taking the action. So great tip. And Raven, if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and the Tomboy Tarts and the podcast, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Oh, yes, definitely. We have this cool, awesome site called Tomboy Tarts, where you will find all sorts of stuff on being a funny geek tomboy in today's world. Check it out at www.tomboy-tarts.com. You can listen to our Tomboy T-Rap podcast over there, or subscribe to us via iTunes. And if you want to connect with us outside of the show, we are also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Tumblr. Basically, just type Tomboy Tarts and you will find us everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Raven, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Raven's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I really want to thank Raven for taking the time to share her journey with us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Sheena.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Check out our resources to help you jumpstart your inner journey to self-confidence by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com.